who don't run. There are those who do run for fun. There are those who run marathons. And for those who run marathons, consider the guy who is running them on trails in every U.S. national park. Bill just finished up a marathon in Rocky Mountain National Park last weekend. That was number 42. He has 17 to go.
I am in the midst of a life experience project to run a marathon in all 59 U.S. national parks. My project, I'm not actually running organized races. Most of the national parks don't allow commercial events because the park is for the people. It's not for commercial gain. I work with the rangers, which I did here as well. I get out a topographical map and I figure out a 26.2 mile course, and I pick a beautiful day like I did in Rocky Mountain back on Wednesday and run a 26.2 mile joy run through the park. When you're running versus hiking or doing anything else in the mountains and on the trails, you really have to focus and pay attention. You can look around a little bit, but if you're not paying attention and you're not in the moment, you're going to trip and fall, you're going to get hurt. But it's so much more engaging. You're out in nature. You're not pounding the pavement, which is actually hard on your body. And that's where that kind of animalistic feel comes, that you're actually part of the surroundings, as we have been for thousands of years, but we've forgotten about it. Just sort of thinking it through to myself, I thought, why don't I make it hard? Make it something that is really sort of engaging and grabs you, and that was to run long distances, run a full marathon, 26.2 miles, in all of the parks. I didn't start running until I was 33, and I'm 45 now. When I first started running, it was terrible, and I actually didn't enjoy it for a long, long time. But I stayed at it because I wanted to get in better shape. I never thought that I would ever do anything like this.
Didn't start till 33, I got time. Bill has 2 marathons left in Colorado. Mesa Verde, which should be beautiful, and the Great Sand Dunes, which sounds miserable because that ground is super sandy, like even off the dunes, it's all sand. All right, well then Bill's on to Arizona. He's going to run at the Grand Canyon. Colorado's energy companies are proceeding with that state-ordered inspection of oil and gas pipelines following the house explosion in Firestone that killed 2 men and severely injured a woman. Republicans at the state capitol blocked a last-minute plan to force energy companies to come up with a publicly accessible map of those lines. Anadarko, Colorado's largest energy company, owned the well and the pipeline that's been linked to the house explosion. That company, like so many others, is politically active. Progressive journalist David Sirota with the International Business Times has been tracking Anadarko's influence on state politics. It certainly is not a surprise that Anadarko's lobbying at the Capitol.
It's not a surprise. I think what's a surprise to some may be that the company was saying that it was saddened and its thoughts and prayers were with the families. At the same time, it was deploying its lobbyists to the Capitol to oppose a bill to force companies to disclose where their oil and gas wells are so that homeowners know where they are.
You've seen environmentalists lose races that they've competed in as they've been stymied at the legislature. They've then turned to local ordinances and to ballot measures, and Anadarko has met them there as well.
That's right. Anadarko spent a large amount of money on ballot initiative groups, first to try to prevent anti-fracking and anti-drilling ballot measures from even being on the ballot. When they were successful at that, the money then shifted into a ballot measure to make it harder for citizens to get measures on the ballot in general.
And the folks who are pro-fossil fuel development will say all of this is right and good, and they're out there advocating for their interests. And your article just kind of lays it out so that people can see, while the company publicly is dealing with this communications crisis, the work of lobbying and the machinery of politics kind of rolls on.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I think what people need to understand is that when you have a huge amount of money coming into politics, that money oftentimes is then followed up by legislative actions by the people who benefited from that money. I mean, we're talking about an enormous amount of money, $7.2 million from Anadarko in just the last election cycle. That's about $10,000 a day of campaign cash coming into Colorado every day for 2 years.
David Sirota with the International Business Times. We will link to your article in the next section on 9news.com. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Denver's crackdown on the 420 rally does not mean the end of massive pot parties in the park. All the city did was block the former organizer from being in charge for the next 3 years. Denver Parks and Rec told me today it hasn't made any changes that would be a roadblock to future cannabis rallies in the park. For all the city's outrage over the park being trashed this year, for all the mayor's concern, chances are there's going to be another 420 rally next year. The permitting process opens up in November. Parks and Rec told me today it can't discriminate in event permits based on the content of the event. And they said that the city believes that it also cannot deny a permit based on the likelihood of illegal behavior at the event. They noted that the 420 rally organizers discourage illegal consumption of cannabis. Anybody with eyes or a nose can see how that went. I asked the city just how far they would let this go. Pardon the direct language, but I asked, would the city of Denver allow Civic Center Park to host a massive orgy? Like smoking cannabis, it's legal inside your house and it's illegal in a public park. Let me just say, bless the poor Parks and Rec spokeswoman who had to walk through this scenario with me on the phone today. But she said that if someone wanted to organize a celebration of free love culture in the park and discouraged overtly illegal acts, as the 420 organizers supposedly do, then she didn't think that the city could stop it. So if you're discouraged by the sight of next year's 420 rally, just bear in mind, it could be an orgy instead. Here's what bothers me about the public discussion of the Republican congressional candidate body slamming and punching a reporter. We asked him about a health care bill. The sheer volume of people I talked to on social media last night who said that the story was fake, then once Fox News confirmed it, they cheered that a reporter had been beaten. Living in a country without widespread political violence impairs our ability to see where this leads. Political violence spreads. Today's aggressors could be tomorrow's victims. We're clearly seeing an increasing acceptance of authoritarian tendencies. But that mindset, too, assumes that your favorite authoritarians will always be in power. There's only one way to ensure authority in perpetuity. And surely, even the people who cheered the beating of a journalist, surely even they don't want to see that in America. So it's not news that Denver is changing, but how it's changing. That requires our continued attention. Beautiful brick homes of decades past are getting wiped away, replaced by various things that look more like spaceships or cardboard boxes. A former Wash Park neighbor tried to assure that his bungalow would be safe when he sold it. Then he drove through the neighborhood this week and saw what happened. He spoke with our Steve Steger.
And my name is Bob Berg, and I've lived at 1100 South Gilpin Street for 32 years. I sold it in October of last year, 2016. This house had been pretty much pristine since 1920. You know, it was an original craftsman bungalow. It was pretty much in original sort of condition. Generations had lived there. Generations of neighbors had walked past the rose gardens in the backyard. It was a solid old house, and I just think that it was something the neighborhood wanted to keep. I'm very happy that the trees are still here. You know, because we planted those in 1986. I'm sorry that all the rest of it's gone. I think it's a tremendous loss for the neighborhood. We got a full price offer like in hours of putting the sign out. And we turned that one down because they were honest about the fact that they wanted to take it down and replace it. The guy that ended up buying it said several things. He made various kinds of representations about keeping it and renovating it and preserving the character of it. Obviously that didn't happen. It's such a shame when a 1920 or 1924 home goes away because the technology exists nowadays to renovate it so well. Losing our architectural heritage, you know, the classic buildings, I think it diminishes the city in a way. I think it attacks its identity, kind of homogenizes it, and it's very sad. I mean, I love the house. You know, I spent 30 years in it. And I really had hoped that it would have a different future than this.
Now, Bob posted about this on Facebook and it really lit up. And he got an apology email from the developer. The developer told him he tried design after design for a remodel, but it wouldn't work. So he had no choice but to scrape.
So if people are thinking, well, maybe I could work something out with the developer, put it in writing what they're going to do, and then they won't be able to take the house down.
Bob says he talked to a lot of people about this, and the courts may not hold up something like that. And we've talked to legal experts who also say they could sell the house to someone else, and that contract goes out the window. It's just one of those things. Someone else owns the property. They can do with it what they want.
You sell your house, it's not your house anymore.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, thank you. Minneapolis, why you got to try to be like us with your big blue animal statue? 25-foot tall giant blue rooster sure looks an awful lot like Denver's big blue bear outside our convention center. The rooster was just installed at the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden. Different artist than our bear, we should say. Listen, I'm not trying to rooster block anyone, but get your own thing, Minneapolis.